But I am left with a question. How did three spinsters, who spent most of their life in a remote parsonage on the edge of the moors, come to write books that I find shocking, erotic, profoundly moving, and quite wonderful? My journey starts in the Yorkshire village of Hull. As I search through the life and work of the Bronte sisters for some kind of explanation for this family's unique genius. Patrick Bronte was appointed perpetual curate at Haworth in 1820, and he and his wife Maria, 6 young children, moved here to the parsonage. He was a self-made man, born in a tiny shack in Ireland, yet he got to Cambridge where he got a first-class degree. Just 6 months after arriving in Hull, Maria died of cancer, leaving Patrick with 6 children under the age of 8. His 2 eldest daughters succumbed to TB less than 4 years later. The 4 surviving children, Charlotte, Emily, Anne, and their brother Branwell, were raised by their mother at the parsonage with the help of his late wife's sister, Aunt Branwell. Patrick encouraged the remarkable creativity of his precocious offspring. This is a little pencil drawing by Branwell, when he was 11 years old. Godfrey. Each of the young Bronte showed some promise as artists. This is really good, I think. It's a painting by Emily of her dog. She has several dogs, but this is Keeper, I think. That storytelling seems to have been their great passion. Each week, the Reverend Bronte would prepare his sermon in the study, while upstairs the wild imagination of his 4 children would run riot in the small bedroom where they gathered to create exotic fantasy worlds. Inspired in part by a childhood gift of 12 toy soldiers. Have a look at a cover by Charlotte, father buying the soldiers and returning back to Hamilton, which I can show you that moment. The purple runways and soldiers at Leeds. I snatched at one and exclaimed, "This is the Duke of Wellington, which shall be mine." Mine was the funniest and perfect in every part. Emily's was a grave-looking fellow, and we called him Gravy. Alice was a queer little thing, very much like herself. The landlord shows very common. That's wonderful. They laughed out little plays with soldiers, and they went from acting out to writing it down. And this is by Charlotte Bronte. She was 14 when she wrote this. And it was designed to be small enough for the soldiers to read, but it had the advantage of being a secret code amongst the children, and their father or their aunt just wouldn't be able to read it. Why was it so secret? Was it because they were naughty stories? Or? Well, they got always be probably not what you would expect because children to be writing. Their reading was uncensored, so they were reading the Bible and all kinds of Catholic books, and everything fed into these stories. An Extraordinary Dream by Lord Charles Wesley. In this slumber, I thought I was walking on the banks of a river, which murmured over small pebbles at the bottom, gleaming like crystals through the silver street, and the green buds of the wild rose trees around were unopened, and a mild warmth was shed from the sun, then at its height in the blue sky. That's obviously from their walks, isn't it? Branwell and Charlotte created dozens of these little books, writing about life in a glamorous exotic realm called Anglia. It was peopled by aristocratic, characters and settings, grunge halls and balls, and all the things really that I think the Banshees sort of like to wear every day in life.
Their younger sisters, Emily and Anne, felt excluded from the angrier adventures, so they arranged a country of their own. Emily even added their imaginary land, Gondor, to a geography textbook with a location in the North Pacific. I just love the idea of these children in this tiny room creating these extraordinary worlds. And I'm sure this early writing work would have developed the skills of all the Brontes. But while Charlotte and Anne drew on their adult experiences to produce their later masterpieces, their sister never abandoned the stories she wrote as a child. For Emily, the fantasy world that she created in Gondor was used later as the basis of the only novel that she ever published, Wuthering Heights. But whereas the imaginary world was set in tropical climates, she set this in a landscape which she knew very well, the wild moors that lay at the back of the home that she lived in since she was a toddler. I'm retracing the route that Emily would have followed across her beloved moors to the location said to have inspired Wuthering Heights, the big, remote farmhouse where Heathcliff makes his home. This is Emily's opening description of that brutal, windswept landscape. Pure, bracing ventilation they must have up there at all times. Indeed, one may guess the power of the north wind blowing over the edge by the excessive slant of a few stunted firs at the end of the house, and by the range of gaunt thorns, all stretching their limbs one way as if craving alms of the sun. Cathy's undying obsession with the cruel Heathcliff is mirrored by her love of this untamed wilderness. And I'm sure the author's own passion for the landscape can be heard in Cathy's almost blasphemous hymn to the moors. If I were in heaven, I should be extremely miserable. I dreamt I was there once. Heaven did not seem to be my home, and I broke my heart with weeping to come back to earth, and the angels were still angry that they flung me out in the middle of the heat on the top of Wuthering Heights, where I was sobbing for joy. Emily Bronte's tortured love story continues to inspire new films, musicals, operas, songs, and ballets. David Nixon choreographed a recent interpretation of Wuthering Heights, the Northern Ballet. I sat in with David for a rehearsal of the section where Heathcliff takes revenge on Cathy for marrying his wealthy rival Edgar Linton. He taunts Cathy by toying with Linton's sister Isabella under her jealous gaze.
That's really good. It's her reaction you want to make you catching her. I know you always want. But Messenger's going to get it instead.
Okay, what else do you taking? Salami, bananas, a block of cheese, tomatoes.
If you get good lettuce, get a good lettuce. I want to make a salad. The girls don't need nothing.
Most attractive in the book. I think there's probably two things.
Do the girls need anything else, or should I got everything?
Absolute harmony between two young people, and it had to do with the Moors, and how at one they all were in that space. And then the contrast to that, that as we grow up and as we make choices, how that actually destroys it.
Yes, absolutely. It's an obsessional love affair. It's something that they have to have.
That's a lot of what we spoke about in the rehearsal. We didn't actually say a lot of in love sort of things, there's obsession.
What I just find unbelievable is that it's so true.
Yeah.
She understands the nature, not just a woman, but a man. And this is a woman that had no life experience. I mean, this woman's had nothing. And she brings this truth of life.
That's true. And love, sex, everything. She hasn't had any of it, really.
Emily was only 27 when she completed Wuthering Heights, yet her novel tells us so much about the darkest moments of the human condition.
When Kathy is dying, the scene between her and Heathcliff is absolutely amazing. Anybody that saw somebody they love dying will understand that appalling desperation of wanting to keep the person with you. Her present countenance had a wild vindictiveness in its white cheek and a bloodless lip and a scintillating eye, and she retained in her closed fingers a portion of the locks she had been grasping. As to her companion, so inadequate was his stock of gentleness to the requirements of her condition, that on his letting go, I saw 4 distinct impressions left blue in the colourless skin. I think I find Wuthering Heights particularly moving because I have felt all the feelings that are in that book, particularly the sense of loss, the desperation, and luckily for me, great love.
Emily expresses many of these powerful emotions using imagery from this majestic landscape. And the Moores do seem to have given inspiration to all 3 of the Bronte sisters. But in other ways, these young women were each very different. Emily's talent seemed to come from her Yorkshire roots and a wild imagination, but she wrote only for herself. Now, her older sister, Charlotte, was quite different. She was ambitious and adventurous and hungry for fame. The 3 Bronte girls were raised in humble surroundings by their curate father, Patrick, and their late mother sister, Aunt Brenda. Emily, Charlotte, and Anne would go on to write classic Victorian novels. But before their books were published, the sisters spent many years trying to find other ways to earn money. In the 19th century, most middle-class women with no independent means had to either get married or work as governesses and teachers, something that the Bronte sisters did and wrote about in their books. When they were young, they came as students to this school here, Roe Head School. Later, Charlotte came here as a teacher. It wasn't altogether a happy situation. She wanted to be a writer, but circumstances dictated that she had to be a teacher. There's a wonderful bit that Charlotte writes in the Roe Head Journal. And I should spend all the best part of my life in this wretched bondage, forcibly suppressing my rage at the idleness, the apathy, and most asinine stupidity of these fat-headed oafs. I think that's when Roulette must sum up a lot of teachers' attitudes. What she's wanting to do is write about her imaginary world, Anglia, and she can't. She has to sit there and teach these wretched children. While she was teaching at Roe Head, Charlotte wrote to the poet laureate, Robert Southey, asking for his opinion of a selection of her poems. He wrote Maxwell, literature cannot be the business of a woman's life, and it ought not to be. The more she is engaged in her proper duties, the less leisure she will have for it, even as an accomplishment or a recreation. Now, you and I, I'm sure, will be up in arms about that. But the point about the whole letter is that he's actually saying to her, yes, it's okay to write poetry, but you don't try to be famous with your writing. Write poetry for its own sake, not with a view to celebrity. But if you are a woman living in a vicarage, you are going to have to aim for success. And we wouldn't have had any of those girls if Charlotte hadn't wanted celebrity. But even for a woman as ambitious and driven as Charlotte Bronte, Southey's letter was a major setback. Charlotte kept the envelope and she wrote upon it, Saudi's advice to be kept forever. Roe Head, April 21st, 1837. My 21st birthday. Oh.